So here I'm pre-drilling the holes for the pegs. These holes will later be reamed with a violin reamer, which is a tool that specifically tapers the sides of the hole to match the taper on the violin pegs to hold the strings in tension. Now I'm not drilling all the way through this block of wood. I'm drilling enough to go through both side walls of the neck, and when I shape the violin neck later, you'll see that I'll cut the sides off the walls and reveal both sets of holes. But it's important to do this now while the block is still a block, so you can keep the holes plumb and parallel to the sides. Nothing fancy here, just using one of my bandsaws to cut the rough profile of the neck. This stock removal helps tremendously when you start carving. Saves you loads of time. I'm using a mill here to get an exact flat reference face on the neck. This is where the fingerboard will eventually attach. So I want this to be dead flat. So we've got our neck roughed out here, and you can see what we're going to be doing. I need to actually hollow out this space. Let me darken that in so you can see it. This will all go away. This is the peg box, and the peg box is where all the pegs roll through and hold the tension of the strings. So you just saw me level the neck completely. Right, so I just milled off that surface to make sure it's dead flat after it's drying, because any kind of inconsistency in this when you glue a fingerboard down is a real problem. It either warps the neck you just carved or it can pop off the fingerboard. So this is now all perfectly square and flat. I have the correct angle on my neck right here for where it meets the body, right? That creates the actual break angle for the strings. So if you can imagine over the course of the instrument, if this was in perfect parallel line with the bridge, you would have some serious problems in terms of string height as well as the actual sound. So what we do as luthiers in violin making, you break the angle. On a violin, you lean the angle back here so the strings run up to the bridge and down to the tailpiece. On a banjo, a mountain back banjo or any kind of thing like that, a lot of them are zero neck angle. They're dead flat. But steel string or modern banjos have a 2.5 degree neck angle, a break on them. Electric guitars are very similar. A lot of other instruments have that. But violins are a little more extreme in terms of their angle versus a normal instrument. So, I digress. What we're going to do here is we're going to drill out the majority of the waste out of this pocket right from the top, and then I'll be carving the rest of it to get it nice and cleaned up. All right. Here's our roughed out peg box. Doesn't look like much, but that's a big help to me. It allows my chisels to get in there easily to do the pairing work on the end grain and the side walls without having to worry about all that meat to carve out. So once I've got that hollowed out, I still leave this square, right? I haven't carved the volutes yet or the profile of the neck yet, so that I can still put this in a vise to do all of the chisel work in there and not have to worry about the sides. So we'll chisel this out, and then we get to start laying out our volutes, or the spiral, the scroll that is on the top of the the neck. So let's get to chopping. I really enjoy using this little template. It's a series of dots that create a spiral that you can basically connect the dots to create the line drawing that you need for the volutes. It's super important on a violin that you always keep a center line in mind. That center line flows from the top of the neck all the way down to the very bottom of the instrument at the end pin. Everything is referenced off of that line, including the scroll and the shapes on the back of the neck. This is a fun part where you begin to see the drawing of a spiral turn into the three-dimensional element of the scroll. I'm taking away a lot of the stock here to reveal the different levels that I'll need to hand carve to make that scroll on top. I'm using a Japanese saw, one of my favorites that I got while I was in Japan, called a Ryoba, which is a double-sided saw. It has cross-cut teeth for cutting across the grain on one side and rip cut teeth on the other side. I'll be using both during this process. Currently I'm using the cross-cut edge because I'm cutting across the grain. When I start to cut the top of the scroll to remove these chunks, I'll be using the rip portion of this saw.
we find ourselves. I've got the volutes roughed out off the saw. The rest of this work will be chisel work. So I'll be using a series of tinier and sharper chisels going around and profiling this. Now, I won't video a lot of that for a couple of reasons. One, it's extremely time consuming. Lots and lots of hours actually trying to get these levels just right and tuned up and all of that shape. It's kind of boring to watch. So literally all I'm going to be doing, I'll show you really fast like this. Little itty bitty cuts. All right. So it's this for 6 hours or whatever. The other reason is my son is a gymnast and he has long practices. So I go, take him to where he needs to go, and I'll sit and carve. So I won't have my space or whatever else. I'll just have a few tools with me and some headphones, and that's where I get a lot of this carving done. So yeah, next time you see this, it'll be a little better. So I'll work on this outside of the videos, and we'll get back to the next process.